Hi all, welcome again to the last video series of Alto user ID agent. And in this video series, we are going to look at the last topic, which is called as active authentication, right? So in active authentication, the user, it needs to enter the username and password. So as we have seen in the previous videos, in previous videos, the user was seamlessly getting authenticated by Active Directory, where the user didn't have to enter any credentials and he was seamlessly getting access or no access based on the security policy you have created on Alto. But in this video, what we are going to see is that the user would be presented a portal page, a captive portal page, where he has to enter the username and password. This solution is good when you have some guest users, right? So in your enterprise network, you could have some internal user, such as what we saw in the previous video, where we had created some users in our Active Directory database, and we had a group and everything in the Active Directory, and Alto was leveraging that database to authenticate the user, right? But in this case, the user, a guest user, is someone who is coming for some short period. It could be 1 week, it could be 1 day, it could be 1 month, like a contractor, right? In those scenarios, how can I go ahead and authenticate that user? Because I want to still see usernames in the logs. And that is where active authentication helps us. Active authentication will authenticate a user even if he is not part of your Active Directory. And this is done with the help of a captive portal. So let's go ahead and see how to create a active authentication in Alto using user ID. The steps for creating is pretty much very easy, as we have seen in the past videos where we had gone ahead and integrated with Active Directory. Same way over here, we can either create a local username and password on Alto, or you can integrate it with any of the directory services such as Active Directory or Novels eDirector or Sun Microsystem. And then once in this case, in today's video, what we are going to do is we are going to create local username and password, right? So we will go ahead and create a local username and password, but you can also go ahead and integrate it with AD. Configure an authentication profile, and this is the authentication profile is going to be used for active authentication. Allow response pages on a specific interface by creating interface management profile. So we will see how to go ahead and create an interface management profile, and then enable user ID at the zone level and at a policy level, and then go ahead and create a captive portal rule. So now we are going to go ahead and see how to create a active authentication using local database. So I'm going to go into devices, and under devices, you will see on the left hand side local user database. So I'm going to create two users, user 1 and user 2, same as we have seen in the previous videos, but these users are in the local database. Okay, so I have user number 1, and now I'm going to create user number 2. Okay, so user number 2 is created. In case if you want, you can put these two users in groups. Again, local groups we can create. So let's say same groups like last time, allow internet. So we are going to say that allow internet, and the user for this allow internet would be the local user, user 1. Okay, same thing. In case if you want, you can also create another user which is going to be no internet, and we'll put user 2 over here this time. Okay, so now you have user 1 who is part of the allow internet group, and user 2 who is part of the no internet group. Now the second step is creating authentication profile. So we will go into our authentication profile, which is there on the top, and we will go ahead and create a authentication profile for local database, which is going to be used for active authentication. So we'll give a name saying active authentication user, and the type would be a local database, and we don't have to go ahead and enter any of the credential. We'll go into advanced, and we will go ahead and input our group allow internet, and the second group which is going to be no internet, right? So in case if you want, you can also create a block rule for no internet. So authentication profile, and then we are going to go ahead and go into networks, and under networks we will see interface management. So currently the interface profile, so if you look at the interfaces, I have three interfaces again. One interface is going to go to the internet outside. The second interface is going to my LAN, which is 192.168.10.1 IP address, and the other one is going to DMC. So I'm going to use this, which is allow management. So I'm going to edit in the interface management profile, allow management, and enable response page. I'm going to say okay. So now this particular policy has been this particular profile has been allowed for response pages. Then I'm going to go into my policy, and then I'm going to, currently there is no policy. I'm going to enable a policy which is going to give access to the internet. Before that, I'm going to go into captive portal and create a rule for captive portal, which is going to be for in to out or into internet, anything. And the source would be part of my trusted or inside zone, and the destination would be outside or untrusted zone, right? And the service where I want the captive portal to come up is either HTTP or either HTTPS. So I can use both if I want. So in case if let's say someone is trying to access HTTPS also, then also the user would be prompted for the username and password. And the action over here would be by default no captive portal. I'm going to say web form, which would be a page on the browser. Okay. And then I'm going to create a security rule. And in this security rule, I'm going to say allow into out, or into internet, anything. The source would be my trust zone. Source address, again, you can restrict it to the specific LAN, but in my case, I'm going to simply say any. Destination would be untrust or outside zone. And in the user, I'm going to allow our internal user, which is going to be my okay, so internal user, which is going to be my user one. Okay, and then I'm going to go into application, any application, services, any service, and I'm going to simply say allow, right? And I'm going to log the traffic as it goes. All right, and then I'm going to go into network, zones, and on the trust zone, which is for my LAN, I'm going to enable user ID. And devices, and under devices, as we have seen in our previous video, under user information, we had during our agentless or with agent, we had done some configuration. Same way this time, we are not going to do any of the user mapping or any of the user ID agent or group mapping. we are going to simply say captive portal, and we are going to enable the captive portal for redirecting to our outside interface. Okay, so redirect host, sorry, not outside, inside interface is going to be the IP address of 192.168.1.10, sorry, 1.1. Let me just double check the IP address if it is right. So I will go into network and interface, and it is going to be 192.168.10.1, correct. Okay, so I'm going to simply say not 1 but 10.1. So this is where, as soon as the traffic comes in, the user is going to be presented with a portal page, because we are enabling redirection on our inside interface, and on that interface we have enabled response pages to be sent. We click on OK, and we will say commit, and this will enable the user ID authentication. Okay, and you can see that now it shows as the configuration has been committed successfully. So let's go ahead and validate it. So we'll try to open up a page over here, which is pan-edufiles.com, right? And if our configuration is successful, or configuration is configured, everything is correctly configured, then we will be able to see a page where it will ask us for username and password, and we need to enter the username and password to validate if I need to access the specific resources, which is pan-edufiles.com. Okay, so let's verify